So a commenter writes in about toxic in-laws. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. This commenter writes, can you do a video on toxic in-laws, on why they want to control your spouse's life and exclude you? Happy Sunday, everybody. So this is a good question. Um, you know, so um, when you think about like toxic in-laws, you think about, for me, I think about a family dynamic that's already been well established way before you came into the picture. So a short answer to your question is, why do they want to control your spouse's life and exclude you? Is because your spouse allows it. And so because your spouse has not set that boundary in place, they will continue to run amok in your life until your spouse cleans that up. And it's your spouse's responsibility to make sure that they respect them, respect your spouse and you, and not allow them to come in and create chaos. That is their responsibility to do that, not yours. So that's an issue you need to take up with your spouse. And if your spouse is sort of passive, or they just don't really stand up for you, then that should tell you what you need to know, which is that, like, when push comes to shove, your partner is not going to do what needs to be done in order to protect your life together, your home together, or even stand up for you. And you may need to just think about whether or not that works for you or not, because if you stay in the marriage, if you stay in things as they are now, you basically become complicit and you're okay with how things are. And things are not going to get better per se, because a lot of times when there's a family dynamic that's already sort of cemented and has gone unchecked, um, they're not going to see any need to change. They don't feel like they're doing anything wrong. They are manipulative and they're doing what they need to do in order to get their way. And so far, it has worked. And you're just an obstacle, and they feel confident that they could work around you with that. So you need to, for you yourself, you need to have a conversation with your partner. You need to establish what your deal breakers and your boundaries are, and maybe set that boundary going forward. Like, okay, well, this is what I need. Going forward, I'm not going to allow your mother and your dad to come over to the house because they've been disrespectful to me. Or that's my boundary. Like, I don't want people in my home that are going to be disrespectful to me. And, I'm just not okay with that. And sometimes, families just have this dynamic already where they're just like, we have our clique, we have our established people. We don't want any outsiders to come in, especially people that are different. We feel threatened by that. And so we're going to bully our way. We're going to bully our way. We're going to constantly insert ourselves into their marriage, into their home, into the grandkids' lives and things like that. That is something that your spouse needs to check. You need to check your spouse, and then they need to check their family, and you need to allow your spouse to the space to do that. But you also need to have, your deal breakers and things like that, to whereas you're not going to put up with certain things anymore. So I mean, and people can sort of gossip and things like that, and that's fine if that's what they want to do, but they need to keep it in their home and not bring it to yours. And so you need to draw a line in the sand and let people know that you're not going for disrespect, and have a zero tolerance when it comes to that. And it's just that simple. And I know it sounds easier said, maybe sounds easier said than done, but that's really the order. If a person wants to be with you, they need to protect the relationship. They need to protect the family that you're creating with them. And there's a certain level of detachment. Even in a communal society, there's a certain level of detachment that you have to have in order to create your new family. Like, you have to be able to concentrate and focus on the family that you're marrying, that you're creating, and things like that. You have to have time, energy, and space and respect in order to devote to that. And so everybody else needs to kind of back it up, and give it some room to grow. Otherwise, it's pretty much like watering a dead plant. It's never going to go anywhere, and it's just basically going to wilt. As a family, as your partner's family, you should never ever be excluded. And if your partner's okay with that, if your partner's okay with you being excluded, I think that's saying something about your partner, and I'm just going to leave it at that, because you should never be excluded. If you're excluded, then the whole your spouse and everybody within your family unit should be excluded too. It should be like, no, we're a unit, so you can't exclude her without excluding me. Hopefully that makes sense. So I hope that answers your question. Like, comment, share, and follow. You guys take care, and see you next time. Thanks so much.